Hey, this is Charles again, coming from Exponential 2010, and I'm here with a good friend of mine, Dave Mahanes from Deidox. Some of you already know some of his work. We've been able to work with Dave and Brent and others the last few idea camps. So tell us a little bit. I know some people know about some of the films that you have created, but give us kind of like the backstory.
Yeah.
What's the story behind Deidox?
Cool. Well, Brent and I, the filmmakers, we had been able to do some client work, kind of telling stories around the world. And as we were kind of traveling around, we were seeing that God was really doing some cool, amazing things with just everyday people. And we really felt like within the church, especially the American church, we don't get practical examples of what it looks like to be used by God. We hear from the pastors and, they try to get us to go out and do these things, but we don't ever get those practical examples of what that looks like. And so we started to kind of figure out how can we as storytellers create a resource for pastors to get this message out to their congregation. And as technology was advancing over the last few years, where it was cheaper to tell stories, we had a distribution outlet, we do digital downloads. More and more churches were starting to use the digital downloads. And so just everything kind of came together and we were like, well, let's go for it and let's try it. So that was kind of the behind the scenes of why we started.
That's great, because I mean, you guys do a phenomenal job at telling stories. So when you think about like organizations or churches, do you have any pointers on, first of all, I think most would say it's an important part of the organization, but they may not exemplify that.
Right.
Is what would you tell organizations or churches about really the art and the skill of storytelling?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think first of all, you have to recognize that we are in a visual learning culture. I mean, the spoken word, the written word are very important, but more and more people are learning and being touched by visual stories. And so for organizations, I think it's accepting that first. And then second, what we like to do with some of the organizations we work with is instead of the typical narrator or the representative from your organization kind of telling you why you should feel bad or why you should care
Right.
about this, we want the subject matters, we want them to speak. We want their voice
That's
to come
good.
out. And so we tell organizations, if you're helping with water, if you're helping the homeless, if you're helping these, let those people that are being served by your institution tell their story. And then when I think it comes to story, again, we're being bombarded with so many messages every single day
Right.
that you've got to learn how to tell that story in 3 minutes. And so you can't tell someone's whole life story.
Right.
You have to identify what is one piece of their story, what is one theme, what is one idea that we want to get across, and how can we do that in 3 minutes? If that
That's really
helps
good.
them. Yeah.
Really, really, really helpful. Let me ask you this, maybe one last question. We only have a couple of minutes
Sure.
left, and that is, if you, right now, many viewers are idea makers. There are people who want to take ideas to implementation. And personally, I've known from the back end that you guys have gone through a lot to launch Deidox.
Oh, yeah.
So is there a principle or insight that you would share? Like if you're pursuing an idea, here's one thought you should carry with you as you do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing for us is being faithful with what you have right now. I mean, I think as idea guys, it's easy for us to think at the 30,000 level and to think of where we want to be ultimately. But then I think you have to be able to step back for a moment and say, okay, what do I have right now? What are the resources I have? What are the connections I have? What do I have that God's given me or whatever tools I have to start that journey? And then it's about persistence. And I think it's believing in that ultimate vision, but then saying, I'm going to be faithful what I've been given right now, and I'm going to just faithfully, with determination, move forward. And I think that's been one of the big lessons for us. And just to kind of give a little insight, when we started Deidox, we had a budget that we thought we needed $500,000 because
Wow.
we wanted to do 30 films. We felt like we had to get right out of we had to have them all out there right away. And one of the big lessons we learned was to step back. And I'm glad we did, because we didn't waste resources. So we started with a much less budget. We were able to learn and mold and move as we went along. Some of the decisions we would have made with a $500,000 budget would have been thrown out the door,
Right.
because we were constantly changing and adapting what works, what doesn't work, what types of stories work. And so that's where I guess the key thing would be faithful with what you've got and try to be persistent and move forward.
That's great insight. And, we have links for Deidox's work, but more than anything, I love the posture in which you and both Brent's work is. As far as everybody I've referred to you, you've actually made personal contact.
Sure,
So thank you for
absolutely.
doing that, and thanks for being
Well,
a big part of Idea Camp.
I'm telling you, I'm going to pitch Idea Camp because honestly, even just here at Exponential, the relationships with the people we met at that first idea camp are still there. And I mean, I'm here in the relationship with Charles, but other people that we've met here. And I think that's one of the key things about idea camp is the ability to develop those relationships with people that are like-minded, have the same kind of value system that, hey, listen, how can I help you? What does that look like? It's not about what can I get out of this all the time. And I think that's just a very healthy environment to be able to dream and come up with ideas and to do it with a group of people that share that. So thank you.
Well, thanks.
Yeah.
Look at that. Promotions about Idea Camp without even asking for it.
No,
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be back with more interviews from Exponential.